the Iowa CCI handout. I know you got a lot of them here today, but it's up on the flyer out there, all the different information for the county meetings. And if you can attend one of those county meetings, if you can attend more than one, all the better. I know I plan to go to Story County at 1, and then I plan to go to Boone County at 6, because it's important that we get in front of as many people as possible asking hard questions like people were asking here today. But not all of us can get to those meetings because they're at conveniently inconvenient times for most people. Most of us aren't free at 9 in the morning or 1 p.m. in the afternoon, right?
On a weekday. Yeah.
On a weekday. So what can you do if you can't get to these county meetings? We need you writing letters to the editor as much as you can. We need you writing your county supervisors if you're in an impacted county, letting them know you're worried about this. We need you putting the word out in as many possible venues as you can why you think that this is bad. So it doesn't look like it's just the environmental groups. We know it's more than just the environmental groups. We know it's people that are worried about private property, public health, economics, all these things. So we need you putting your stories out there and writing to these people. Because even though we know there's only 3 people making this decision for the Iowa Utilities Board, those are politically appointed positions. That means that they are subject to political influence. We need to generate some political influence. And we filled this auditorium here today. I have no doubt that we can do that. So we need all of you, as much as you can, to get the word out, to get that message out. All the questions you're here today, we've got talking points on these sheets that you can use. We've got the directions on the quarantine.
If I can tell you anything today, one thing is for sure that pipelines not only leak, but something we haven't explored either is also how they rupture. You can look on YouTube south of Tioga, North Dakota, which I would call ground zero of the Bakken oil boom, and in February 11th of this year, a pipeline ruptured due to pressure and shot a flame for an hour and a half, a fourth of a mile into the air. So there are other concerns with this type of development on fracking, but my question for our experts up here is also to discuss the concept of eminent domain, because this has been happening a lot in North Dakota in terms of not only landowners, but the government coming in and saying, well, that's great for you, but we're going to take your land anyway. And the great comfort I have, and many of you here, is that I think we're starting to see, we're at a point in history where we need to be using our bodies to have conversations that we can't otherwise be having. So I'm curious about routes of, or ideas of exploration around, if eminent domain is declared, what the public can do to help sort of address concerns over this pipeline.
My name is Andrea Beach. I'm a member of the Sustainable Agriculture Student Association, and I just want to first say that it's really an honor and privilege to be here and representing this diverse group, this diverse growing coalition here. For all of us who might not agree on everything, but I think on this issue where we see eye to eye that Iowa's people and natural resources need protection. So in my mind, the issue is pretty simple, that the science, the projections all tell us that the decisions that we make now, and by decisions I mean moving beyond a carbon-based energy economy, greatly impact what happens later in the century, okay? So we know that we need to get onto a future with renewable energy, and so what are we waiting for? And in my mind, every pipeline that we build just locks this infrastructure in place for decades. So it's not just, you know, the short term, it's the long term, right? So it's just a step in the wrong direction in my mind. And I always laugh and get a kick out of when politicians and the media talk about the economic debt that we're going to leave to our children. And I think that's comical, because what about the carbon debt that we're leaving to our children? So this is really, in my mind, an intergenerational justice issue, that if we are not going to make good decisions now, then we're putting our future generations and our children in danger. So you're a critical piece, and if anyone's following what's happening in Nebraska, the landowners there are a major reason that that pipeline is not built. So please get your neighbors involved. And I also encourage us all to really, you know, think about and rally behind the process here, because we're not on a sustainable or just path forward, and we're all angry about this or upset or concerned for a lot of different reasons, but the process is going to be a major part of what stops this. NB is going to rule on whether this pipeline is in the public necessity and convenience, and as Dave told us, a pipeline that creates minimal jobs and minimal economic benefit in our state does not seem necessary to me. And it also doesn't seem convenient when we have spills, which will happen, and that doesn't seem convenient when it forever alters the landscape of our state. So that's all.
We're a growing grassroots coalition that includes community members, nonprofit organizations, interest groups, and we're all united to stop the construction of the Bakken pipeline.
Wally Taylor from Iowa Sierra Club and Carolyn Raffensperger from Science and Environmental Health Network are going to be leading us in a Q&A. Anna and I will be going throughout the auditorium here. We have mics for you to ask your questions.
Matt mentioned that the public can submit written comments to the Iowa Utilities Board. You can start doing that now. You can wait until after the application comes out and you can take a look at it. You can do it up until 5 days before the official IUB hearing. Now that hearing has not been set and it won't be for quite some time. I would expect that hearing to take place probably this summer, maybe even this fall. So you have lots of time to think about what you want to tell them. We have somewhere, I think in the front row,
We're ready to go ahead and start the questions.
a sheet of points that you can use to include in your comments.
So when you all leave today, these gentlemen right here have some handouts that they'll be passing out to you.
They keep talking about how much tax money is going to come to Iowa from this pipeline. I don't understand what that tax money is.
Because of the variations in the way that assessments occur across the state of Iowa, local assessors, local different times, they're uniformly assessed, they're centrally assessed. There's a tax that's collected, and then the state rebates it then back to the jurisdictions that should have received that tax.
In terms of economic impact, an additional note is that the form of the corporation that they are, they pay 0 federal or state taxes. 0, because of the form of the corporation that they are.
The application is likely to be filed to the IUB mid to late January, and we're going to have concrete information in that application to base our comments on. So I would say that it would probably be more beneficial to see the application and wait until the application has been filed to submit those comments. And the organizations that are fighting this, we will send out action alerts and things like that to kind of whittle it down and help people pick out the key points. So I would suggest wait, but it doesn't hurt to submit comments now either.
Can you submit multiple objections in different letters?
I believe so.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's nothing crying doing it now and doing it again later.
No, they'll explain a lot of this stuff if anybody goes to the informational meetings. They explain a lot of this stuff at those. The process that I just laid out, they'll explain that. They'll tell you how to submit comments, and they'll tell you that if you submit a comment to just include your name and your address and contact information. But yeah, it doesn't hurt to submit multiple comments, especially if you want to address multiple issues.
And there is one important thing about the comments, though, and it's very technical but very important. You need to put the docket number of the case on your comment.
That's on all of your handouts on that orange sheet. You've got that information.
And so, otherwise it'll be put in a circular file instead of the pipeline file.
Wally, can you also address the wetlands and aquifer issue?
The wetlands and aquifer issues would be, the wetlands certainly under the Corps of Engineers jurisdiction. This gentleman was talking about they need what's called a 404 permit. And the Corps of Engineers would be obligated to review that, and that would be perhaps a trigger for an environmental impact statement. The aquifers really would be something that the Iowa DNR would or should be concerned about. One thing that we're going to really strongly ask the IUB to do is not issue the permit for public convenience and necessity until all of the other permits are obtained. Otherwise, there's no handle on making sure those other permits are obtained.
So it's like I said, again, it's going to come from the grassroots. It's going to come from us. We have to talk to people, let them know the facts on this issue. I think rank and file members of the union are open to our concerns, and it's coming from leadership.
The union support and has based on the large numbers that were offered. Remember I talked about the manufacturing jobs that would be created. Well, it's not. They're not going to be created. Remember I talked about the expectation that 100% of the construction jobs are going to be created. Well, maybe half of those jobs are going to be created. This is just the way this thing is going to work out. But what will happen, regardless, and the union people need to understand this, if this thing comes through, I know where you folks are headed, if this thing comes through, it's going to have to employ Iowa skilled labor. So my opinion on that is they're making a lot of noise unnecessarily.
I wonder about pressure and whether a better route might be that we form collaborative teams where we set goals for good jobs in Iowa to help meet the kinds of criteria that we would set wanting to become beloved ancestors.
We have a pumping station in Story County. That was announced at the Iowa Utility Board earlier this week. The second thing is, this has a life expectancy that has no end. The company said that they have no plans to sunset the pipeline once it would be put in. So over the life, which does not have end, we know that there will be spills.
Well, the gentleman is right that Iowa has no environmental policy act that requires an environmental assessment or environmental impact statement. And the only federal involvement would be the Corps of Engineers, maybe Fish and Wildlife Service, perhaps, we don't know yet. But one thing you can ask your legislators to do is to adopt or pass an Environmental Protection Act for Iowa.